good to drive in this land of ours.
Hello, Canada hockey fans in the United States.
Well, hello, guys. Geez, what an introduction that is. Usually I have my own podcast, Squid and the Ultimate Leaf Fan, with Rick Vive, and we have nothing like that. Boy, what a professional setting that was to start things off. So, guys,
beautiful.
In case you don't know, I'm Mike Wilson, the Ultimate Leafs fan. Thrilled to be hosting tonight's show. Our guest tonight was taken in 1963 draft by the Toronto Maple Leafs after an outstanding junior career with the Neil McNeil Maroons, my old school, so I had to get that in there. Played on what is regarded as one of the best junior teams ever assembled in 1963-64, first day at the new tongue, folks, with the Toronto Marlboros. Went on to play 15 years pro before embarking on a 25-plus year career in broadcasting. One of the more colorful players who ever wore the blue and white, needless to say. Loved by all. Please welcome to the Hockey Time Machine, Jim Howie McKenny. Howie, how are we keeping these days? Catching up on a lot of Netflix and reading a lot of books?
Yeah, there's a lot of things going. I'm reading on Kobo. My buddy is a Kobo member, so he downloaded all the books onto my iPad, and now I got 200 books to read. So I've been very busy.
Well, I've been in Florida since the late in December, and I've gone through 13
books. Isn't that too bad? Yeah.
13 books.
Should have stayed up here. We had a nice ice storm about a month and a half ago.
I heard that. Now, speaking of which, Howie, listen to this. Exactly 1 year ago today, you joined Rick Vive and I on our second podcast, Squid and the Ultimate Leaf Fan. I pointed out that day that in 1972, you had a goal and an assist to lead the Leafs to a 2-1 victory over the California Golden Seals. So I thought it was only fitting that we just rehearsed that and put that, there it is again, right in print.
Yeah, I was a big game player. I always played well against the Seals. So.
Now, we always like to figure this out. We talk about this with a lot of people with nicknames. You were named Howie because your resemblance to Howie Young, but also because your name is very similar to a teammate on Neil McNeil. Tell us, is that the story, and who gave you the handle?
Yeah, that was Jim McKenny was the guy that had the similar name to me, and they needed a different name, and so I was a big fan of Howie Young's. See, we sort of looked similar.
Yes.
You take that hair off, and we're pretty well dead ringers. And
yes.
So then they started calling me Howie when I was like 15, 16 years old. Howie had a bit of a drinking issue, and I had one of the same. So, so we're on and off the ice, we were pretty well the same.
Well, and on the ice at one time, did you not come to his aid, or was it Ronnie Ellis's aid when Ellis went after?
No, Ellis was punching Howie out we were in a game in Phoenix, and Red Kelly didn't like Howie for some reason or other. They played together in Detroit, and so Red was. He said, "Keep your eye on that guy. You never know when he's gonna, when he's gonna make a move, and he might come from behind. So, take good care." And I guess he might have hit Ronnie from behind. Ronnie just turned around, dropped the gloves, and he was beating on Howie pretty hard. And I think it's the only time ever that one of a guys on his own team jumped him to get him out of the fight to save the guy on the other team, right? Because Ronnie would have killed Howie.
Jeez, well, that's going back a ways. I'll tell you, that's for sure.
Oh, it is, yeah.
Now going back,
it was only an exhibition game too. I mean, who cares?
Oh yeah, so he got away with it. So
it was with just the thirst builder. Yeah.
Well, going back even further now, you were born in Ottawa. So take us through the early years of growing up playing. You played all various sports, not just hockey, but you ended up at Neil McNeil. Were you on a C form with the Leafs at that time?
A C form? No, yeah. I never signed one.
Okay, no, why not?
They never let me. I could have got like $500 for that.
Yeah.
And, all my buddies wanted me to sign one because we could get a case of 24 for $4.26 if you brought back the empties. So you do the math on it. I would have been very popular for about 3 weeks. But
now, how did you?
I never signed a C. I was never drafted or anything like that. They have that thing where I was supposed to draft. As soon as I played for the Marlies, I was owned by the Leafs for life.
Well, they drafted you in '63.
They called it, but it wasn't a draft. Yeah. That was the first year of it. They were sort of just introducing the draft. But all the guys like Walter McKenny, he couldn't go anywhere else. But with the Leafs, he was playing in London, and I did. Bobby Orr, I think he couldn't go anywhere but Boston. They didn't have to draft him. And, Montreal got all the good French guys, except for Dennis Duperry and I guess Jean Rattel and
Gilbert.
Yeah, Rod Gilbert. Yeah, they went to Guelph. But okay.
Before you go any further, and I don't want to ask you, just going back to your Ottawa days, is it true that you won a bubblegum blowing contest one time?
I think so, down at Brentwood Park, which was my home park. Oh, you got me playing for Ottawa South. Yeah, I was a left-handed pitcher and a first baseman, a right-handed hitter. I don't know what my averages were, but I was pretty good. The guy down in the middle there was way better than I ever thought of you, but.
Well, you went another way. You played hockey.
Yeah, that was Charlie. I was sort of a 2 or 3 sport guy. You don't have any of my old football pictures there, right?
Oh, you want to bet?
Oh, there we go. Yeah, the Ottawa Tech. Who was it? The Tech Mustangs, I think they were.
Hey, Harry, got it all covered here.
I know these guys. Yeah. The one there's Brophy there in the front. Nick Said was the quarterback, number 14 there. Yeah, quite the squad.
Now, so tell me, how did you end up at Neil McNeil?
Well, I could have gone to almost any one of the teams in the NHL. There were only 6 teams in the NHL. There's only one team I didn't like. That was the Toronto Maple Leafs because they shoved them down our throats every Saturday night. We had to watch the Leafs and somebody, and I wanted to go to Boston because I was a big Boston fan. Because in ball hockey, I was a goalie, and Don Simmons was the only left-handed goalie in the league at that time. So I was always Don Simmons when we were playing ball hockey. I told him that at the racetrack down in Fort Erie a couple of years ago. He got a laugh out of that.
Well, now speaking of Greenwood and racetracks and so on, as I mentioned, I'm a Neil alumni. Now, it was a pretty strict school to begin with, but do we have your class to thank for Greenwood Racetrack becoming a Neil study hall?
Yeah. Gary Smith used to come to school every day. I think he was in grade 13. He had a grade 11 French book and a racing form under his arm every day. That was it. And he would say to me at lunchtime, he says, well, what are you going to do? You want to stick around here at this mean high school, which you're never going to need because you're going to play in the NHL, or let's go down to the track.
And
what's it going to be? So we did. We just got on the bus there and went right down Kingston Road. Streetcar, actually.
Well, and you guys are way ahead of your time also, because right across the street, the Orchard Park, where you could not only get a drink, you could also purchase probably anything you ever needed. It was Amazon well before its time.
What, at the Orchard Park?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. You could buy it. Yeah. You could buy a car there. If you were going to stay for 2-3 hours, you could just tell them, like, I need a Buick Skylark or something with clean plates. There was no problem. It was a great place. Yeah, it was fantastic, and they let you drink there when you were 18 too,
which is even better.
They never asked for ID. Yeah, I always had Smitty's ID anyways.
Now,
sometimes Smitty couldn't get served, but I did. Yeah.
Now, the Metro Junior League. Walk us through that year and maybe your impression of a 14-year-old kid playing on an Oshawa team by the name of Bobby Orr.
Yeah, we heard a bit about him, but he wasn't. He wasn't a big dominant player at the start. But he was. The name's not for who. God, what's that? But like he developed when he turned pro. He just went to another level altogether. He was a real good junior. Like he was fantastic as a junior. But when he went to Boston, he just took it to another level altogether. And as far as I'm concerned, he's the best hockey player that's ever played the game.
Yeah.
Like people ask me who was the best hockey player ever. And I say, well, after Bobby Orr, and then I'd say maybe Bobby Hull and Gordie Howe, or guys now like Gretzky. Oh, Gretzky and McDavid. Oh, geez. And Gretzky. Well, it was Gretzky and Mario for years, and Dale Howardchuk would have been the best in the league, but he was there at when those other two guys were there. And like the players just keep getting better and better and better. It's unbelievable what those guys can do now.
Yeah, it sure is. I mean,
like Matthews and man, I've never seen anybody can shoot the puck as hard as he can. And a guy was here working at the house the other day, and he asked me a question. He said, "Who has a harder shot, Matthews or Rick Vaive?" I said, "Squid he'd love you for asking that question." and Ricky's shot was probably heavier, but nobody gets it way quicker than Matthews. Oh, it's just as soon as it's on the stick and zing, it's gone, and it's in the top corners or in the 5-hole, wherever there's an opening, he can hit it.
Yeah,
and very quickly too, like that. And he came out of nowhere, played junior hockey in the States, then he went over and played in Zurich, and I admire him for that because I played just outside of Zurich in Rapperswil. For a guy that was 19 years old to go over there and you have no friends, nobody to hang around with, because there's no unemployment, unfortunately, in Switzerland. So you're by yourself all day, right? And here in Canada, I always had like 10 or 12 guys I could see them. Freddie Barrett, my God, how you doing?
They're coming from everywhere, Howie.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Let me take it back here. Let's go back to the 63-64. The Metro League didn't work out after a couple of seasons for a variety of reasons. So back to the OHA. Now there's this team of St. Mike's, Neil McNeil, combining with the Toronto Marlboros. What a hockey team. What a year that must have been. Just take us through that.
I was lucky to make the team because there were so many good guys. I think there were 10 or 12 guys on that team that played in the NHL for more than
10 years.
Oh, more than 10 years. Yeah. Like with Sealing and
Ellis, Walton, Stemkowski, Carlton.
Yeah.
Selby.
Britt Selby, two guys that were rookies of the year in the NHL played on that team. Gary Smith in goal. He won Vezina Trophy in Chicago. So it was an amazing team. It wasn't that big a deal to win the Memorial Cup. We had to win 5 series in those days. We played 2 series in the OHL. Then we had to play against North Bay. Then we had to play against the Metro League in Montreal. There's the axe right there. Jack Chip Chase is number 4, and I don't know who the guys are on the other team. Is that Oshawa?
That's it looks. Paul, I have to be on here. I don't know who that is. I can't see. It's black and white.
I have no idea. Yes, but
now let me ask you this: without being cocky, you guys weren't even worried. Well, you guys didn't sound like you were too concerned you were going to lose. And as a matter of fact, you lost 1 game in the playoffs, and I believe you told me in the past that was more a team-inflicted injury.
We played back-to-back in Montreal, which was a mistake. I mean, that was a scheduling mistake there because we played them one night and beat them about 5-1, and then we played them 2 nights later, and we had no legs left. Right? We left them on Crescent Street. So when they came into the Gardens, it was all systems go, and we ended up running them out of the building. And they had some good guys. Carol Vadney played for that team, and I think Rogie Vachon, maybe. So but they were okay. So we beat them, and then in 5 games, and then we played against the Edmonton Oil Kings in the Memorial Cup, and beat them 4 straight. They came east, so we had the advantage. But we had so many good players, and then they picked up Gary Deneen and I think Monteith from U of T. So just in case anybody got hurt, we had two other players that were maybe as good or better than anybody else on our team. Andre Champagne I think he was the captain of that team, and he never turned out being a great NHLer or anything like that, but he was a great junior.
Well, I was going to ask that question.
No, Grant Moore was the captain.
Yeah, Grant Moore. I was going to ask that question about who you thought on that team you were kind of surprised didn't make it as a good pro.
Yeah, like Grant could have played pro if he wanted. He ended up being a lawyer instead. So,
well, he could represent all you guys.
He did okay, and he played a lot of years up in Aurelia. I think he played for Joe Kane up in Aurelia with the what was it? The Aurelia was the Barry
Terriers, Aurelia Terriers.
Aurelia Terriers, yeah. Tom the Bomb McCarthy, a guy I used to play with in Rochester, played on that team. Yeah, one of the greats. But he was a really good hockey player. Amazing hockey player.
Now, speaking of good hockey players, 1965, and you were the captain of the team, and you got to play against the Russians in December that year. You got to play with Orr, Savard, Sanderson. But take us through that period of that game, like what you guys were thinking before you played the Russians, and then what you felt after the game. You guys were leading at 3-1 at one point, and up losing 4-3, but just that whole game in itself in front of a full-packed building.
What was the final score of that game? 4-3.
Anyway? 4-3 for them.
They won 4-3?
Yeah, the bad guys won 4-3.
I can't believe it. Yeah, I think Turk took a penalty
he did
in the third period for spitting on a guy or something.
Yeah.
So we couldn't kill it off, so it wasn't Turk's fault. It was basically us. We needed a little more goaltending. Who was playing goal then? Was Smitty playing goal? Al Smith. Yeah, we had another guy from Lakehead that came in there, Joey Banville or something. But I don't know. But it was a big deal to play that game. It was fun to be playing with all the guys from the OHL that I sort of played against for 3 or 4 years. And they gave us they had a full house at the Garden, so just out of respect, they gave us all suitcases, Samsonite suitcases. No money or anything, just the Samsonite suitcases. So then after the game, we all went up to the Parkside Tavern, and the next day, the waiter from the Parkside called me at home and said, Jim, what am I going to do? I've got 20 Samsonite suitcases here. What do you want me to do with them? I said, I don't know. Give them to all your friends or something. Nobody wanted anything. Nobody really cared about getting a suitcase. But we had a good time, and the place was packed. It was a big game. I thought we tied them. I thought the game ended up in a tie, but I didn't follow it that closely.
Well, you played them again. You played them again in 1970. It was a little different that time. It was a little rougher game, but going through that period, would you in your wildest dreams ever imagine that 2 years later, the Summit Series against the Russians would change the game of hockey forever? And you just played them twice. So what was your impression when people were talking about sweep and that these guys were just going to be manhandled once they got against NHL guys?
Yeah, well, I really didn't know, because if we stuck with them, how bad would the Canadians, like their our best guys in the NHL play against them. So the Canadian national team engaged in a brawl with the Wings of Moscow before losing. Where was this? In Leningrad?
That one, yes.
Yeah, we played there. I might have played in that series.
You did.
Oh, did I? Okay, yeah. I don't have total recall on that whole trip there.
Well, the 70s is a blur for you.
Oh God, yeah. That trip, I got to call somebody that played there. Kenny Dryden came with the team, and I got to call him because he probably would have remembered what happened during that time period. But I don't have total recall. I just know I had a really good time. I really enjoyed it.
Well, how about this? Your last year junior, you get called up to play in Rochester. What do you remember about your first pro game in Rochester?
I don't know. I think we were playing against Hershey. It was at the Gardens because the Amherst had to move out of the building because they had a big bowling tournament. Can you imagine the hockey team having to move because they had a bowling tournament? But it was Rochester was a big bowling town. We used to have our bowling night on Thursday nights, so we'd sort of keep our wheels on because we most of the time you'd play 3 games on the weekend. Thursday night was just a complete horror show.
Yes.
So end up, we'd be going on like a 3-day or 4-day spree through the weekend. But I enjoy. I love playing there because they had so many good players. Bronco Horvath was playing for them. Dick Gamble, Al Arbor, and Don Cherry, Daryl Sly. I remember I was sitting on the bench, and I think I just made a play. Then we scored a goal or something. I'm talking to a radar sitting next to me, and I said, Al, I think I'm a little too good for this league. And every time I saw him for the next 20 years, he always brought that up, right? Because 3 years later, there I am. I'm still playing for Rochester, right?
Well, you thought you were going to play.
And Radar went on to become like a Hall of Fame coach.
Well, you thought you were going to play 15 years automatically in the league, didn't you?
I thought it was, maybe. But I would have had Borjasomi not showed up. But,
well, we'll get to him in a minute. But your first camp with the Leafs, you were drafted, okay, even though they said it wasn't much of a draft.
Yeah, I had to go to camp. I was going to the Leaf camp. I wasn't in very good shape. I had no idea how to get into shape.
Yeah.
I never had to before. I'd go and play myself into shape. I'd be, in pretty good shape by Christmas. But I had no idea how to do any off-ice training or any of that
how
stuff.
About that shot there?
That was later. Yeah. How about those teeth? Yeah, beautiful. Body by Fisher.
Well, I was going to say to you, Howie, that because think about today.
I didn't make the team that year because I was in terrible shape.
Well, think about today. They do everything with these kids. What they're doing there, they do interviews, they do checks, they talk to their kindergarten teachers, they talk to the server at Tim Hortons. Probably in your day, they could have talked to one of the cashiers at Greenwood Racetrack to get a character check.
Yeah, or the bartender at the Parkside Tavern.
Yeah, exactly.
The Frontenac Arms. Yeah,
you'd have been starting.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so I knew nothing about off-ice training, and they used to send me to Oliphant's gym, and Bus Oliphant would teach me how to lift the weights, and then what I'd usually do is just go over in the corner and I'd take 4 or 5 mats and have a nap, and then I'd go to practice after. But had I taken it serious, I probably would have, I might have been a little bit better, but I don't know.
Well,
I had so many other things going on that I really had no shot.
Well, you must have done something right, because February 26, 1966, you get called up for your first game. Now, 2 things here. Who gave you the news that you were getting called up? And secondly, did you prepare or do anything different to prepare for that game?
I don't know. Who did we play against?
I don't know who you played against, but you there it is. Detroit. There you are.
Yeah, who was it? New York?
Oh, yeah, that's Boston.
It's Boston? Yeah, maybe. I thought I scored my first goal against...
No, this is your first game. Your first game.
That's my first game?
It's your first game.
Yeah, I thought my first game, I went to Greenwood Racetrack in the afternoon.
Yeah, well, you spent the afternoon.
Yeah, with Smitty, just because I knew I'd be too nervous to have a snap. So we went to the track instead.
Did you win any money?
Probably not. No. I was only making $10 a week, so I didn't have a lot of working capital.
Well, so now besides the money, how'd your life change when you finally made the Maple Leafs, or did it?
No, it didn't change an awful lot. The money didn't get that much better. I was, at the start, I signed for $6,000 and got 8 and 9 my first 2 years. Then I went to 10 and 10-5, 11-5, 14, 16, 22, then 40 and 60. And then the WHA came in and all our contracts like tripled.
Yeah.
Thank God for Bobby Hull. I mean, every one of us has a huge debt of gratitude to Bobby Hull, because by him going to the WHA, it gave the league credibility, and we finally had a bargaining chip.
Well, it made a lot of guys rich.
Yeah, I thought I was rich anyway. I wasn't. I ended up just breaking even at the end of my career because I was in a couple of dodgy investments, but I wasn't the only one. But I ended up making like $120,000 a year for 5 years.
Well,
I'm from Ottawa East. I thought I was $1 billion.
Well, I wanted to get into that with you, but first off, I just want to go back to the Leafs when you were there at the beginning, and just the whole thing that you're from Ottawa. Toronto wasn't your team. You're living in the city. The expectations coming from everybody, including your teammates, the media, the fans, management, all of that. That must have been noticeable to you when you put that sweater over your head.
Well, yeah. Well, once I got to Toronto, I realized like it was cool to be a Leaf fan then. Everybody was into the Leafs like crazy here. It's amazing, and that was the days before you had a helmet or anything, so everybody knew what you looked like. Any place you went, you were harassed, or you go to buy some smokes at the convenience store, and the guy telling you how horseshit you played in the last game. So but it was great. It was great, and the guys were a lot of fun. I had chances to go and practice with them. I practiced with Terry Sawchuk and with Johnny Bauer in goal, and Bobby Baun and Carl Brewer and all those guys. And they were all really, really good to me. Alan Stanley.
Now, what about your life in the minors? You started off in the minors, but here's the thing. You played your first game in Rochester. You got sent to Tulsa, but you were moved to Rochester because you at 19 were a bad influence on guys.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, they called me up. Yeah, Ray Miron was the general manager of the Oilers at that time. I was 19 years old, and he told me that they were moving me out of there because I was a bad influence on the other guys on the team, and they were all like 25, 26, 28. And they were sending me to Rochester. I was happy because a couple of my best buddy, Terry Clancy and Gary Smith, played on Rochester, and I knew some of the guys on the team, so I really looked forward to going there, and I had a lot of fun there. We had good teams, and there was a good coach. Joe Crozier was there. I had Rudy Miguel was my coach in with the Oilers in Tulsa, and I always had good coaches. Like Gus Mortson, not Gus Mortson, Gus Bodner with the Marlies for 4 or 5 years. We drove him crazy, and then there was Punch, and Punch wasn't a real big fan. Well, it was my fault that I wasn't playing, so I always I blamed it on Punch, but I mean he was probably the most powerful guy in Toronto for a long, long time there. When they were winning all those championships, like Punch was like a god in Toronto. Yeah. So it was always fun. It didn't matter really where I went. in any of the, even when I got sent down to Dallas, I had a good time down there. Jerry McNamara was the coach, and then I got traded to Minnesota, and Harry Howell was the coach, and Glenn Sonmore, and then I got sent down to Oklahoma City, and Teddy Hampson was the coach there. They were all good guys. You know,
well, just let me, I want to get to that eventually, but I want to go back to just like walking you right up to that, because you're getting ahead of us here, Howie. You're jumping. Like,
well, it was a short career, so I thought I'd wrap it up for you.
Well, well, no, we get paid by the minute here, so you want to drag this out?
Well, I'm glad to hear we're getting paid.
Well, it's not like views; it's by the minute.
Okay,
so we want this one to go on.
As long as I get $5.
You got it.
I always like to get paid what I'm worth.
Well, you're worth more than that.
Or double. Yeah. Well,
Debbie just offered 20.
Yeah.
So
perfect.
Now, once you've played at the NHL level, was it as you expected, or was it way above that? Because again, you've always had this thought in your mind you were going to play in the league, but once you got there and were on the ice with these guys full time, what was your mindset?
Oh, I was so nervous that I didn't know what was going on. You know, I just didn't want to make a mistake. And everybody on the team was like terrified of Punch. You know, Punch had come into the dressing room. Well, one time he came into the dressing room and just tore a strip off Johnny Bauer. I thought Johnny had tears in his eyes because somebody scored on the short side. And I figured, Christ, if he gives Johnny Bauer that kind of shit, what's he going to do to me? You know, but he treated all the guys the same. Other than he loved Timmy. You know, he loved Timmy Horton, but all the other guys and Davey, he loved Davey too. But all the other guys he treated rough. No, and the guy didn't care, like Bobby Bond and all that shit. They didn't care at all. They loved Punch. Now I lost the picture here. I can't see you. Not that I miss you. You
can see me. There, I'm right there. You can see me right there.
Huh?
There I am. How I can see you perfectly.
You can see me. I can't see you.
Well, you're there. You're there. You know what? The tens of thousands that are watching, they can see us. So that's all that matters. Okay.
Yeah. I miss all the pictures.
Well, they delayed the Leaf game.
Yeah, right.
They delayed the Leaf game to watch us. Okay, so just be. They're starting the Leaf game at 8:30 tonight. So just be prepared. Now, you know what? What I was going to say to, what's there a defining moment that registered with you that you knew in your mind of minds then that you could play with these guys and you would be a pro for a while? And by the way, you scored your first goal on February 25th, 1967. We actually, I don't know if Glenn can show that video game, but we do have it to show your goal here.
Yeah, that was against George Gardner, who I played with later in Vancouver.
There you go.
Yeah.
Look at your reaction, by the way. Look at this reaction. Like I
was embarrassed.
Watch your reaction. This is why they're crazy today, because of you.
Yeah, but you see that, like everybody's eyes are on the whole game, and then when you score, all the eyes are on you. You know, so then, like I always felt embarrassed, and it was the same way when I made an outstanding giveaway, and the other team scored. You know, like the camera would come on you, and the people would start booing you, and oh God.
Well, you used to have a tendency to carry the puck.
It was wonderful.
Hey, you used to have a tendency to carry the puck in front of the net a lot. And didn't you tell the media one time that they weren't yelling, they weren't booing you, they were yelling for Lou?
No. But I mean, you could use that play now because you can't hook the guy. I don't know why they don't use it a lot more now. They should send them some film of my old moves there. And if the guy hadn't hooked me from behind, I would have been off and running. You know, we could have,
there's another goal,
a few goals from our own end. Yeah.
Look at that. What we are now.
You can just pass the puck up to the far blue line now. Whereas in those days, you had to fight to get over the red line to shoot the puck in.
Watch this one. You're banging another one here. You're missing all your goals.
Oh, God. Well, there's only two more, so it isn't a big deal.
Hey, so while we're watching this, Howie, how about what did you find is the biggest adjustment from the junior level to the pro level playing hockey?
Oh, it was so much quicker. Everything happened so much faster, and between the minor leagues and the NHL, there was a huge difference in the speed of the play and the amount of time you had to react in things. And now it's even more pronounced. It's unbelievable how fast the puck goes from one end of the rink to the other because there's no red line now. And so you can have a guy up at the far blue line and fire from behind your net right up to him at the other blue line, and then he tips it into their end, and all of a sudden you're cooking. Whereas before you had to work it to the red line, then get the red line, then get it over there, and then shoot it in. Then you could go after it like a pack of dogs. Now it goes a lot quicker. The game is really fast now. And I think I might have been better in this form of hockey than the old style. But I like the old style because there were so many guys there that were there before that I was a big fan of. Like Bobby Hull and Stan Mikita and Jean Beliveau I got to play against, and Dickie Moore got to know him a bit. Doug Harvey I got to know him. These guys were like gods to me, and there's no characters like those guys around anymore. I don't think. I don't associate with any of the guys that are playing in the NHL right now because I'm retired and they're making $5 million a year. I mean, we don't travel in the same circles. I don't see them riding their bikes around, Bloor, Young and Bloor.
While they're home playing video games.
Okay, good.
Well, for you, in your area, or your era, again, the new tongue, I'm just working it in here tonight.
Okay, good. Yeah, not a problem.
The original Six was a club-like atmosphere in the day. Roughly 120 guys had their jobs locked in every year. And for a guy to lose his job, he'd either have to retire or really lose his job. So you going in, and you just touched on it, like you knew all the guys, and we all knew every player basically in every team. You going in as a new young hotshot player come into the Maple Leafs, how are you treated by the veterans? You touched on some of them looking after you, but a couple of them must have given you a little bit of a hard time because you were taking one of their buddies' jobs.
Not really.
Nope.
It was always it was an unwritten rule in hockey that when a new guy came to your team, you helped them all you could. When I got traded to Minnesota, I never bought a stick of furniture for the apartment that I went in. All the guys on the team one guy gave me a couch, another guy gave me a bed, another guy gave me a television set, another gave me a stereo. We all stuck together. Mm-hmm. When Boria first came here, I guess I never dawned on me that he'd be taking my job, but I went everywhere with him, because he didn't speak an awful lot of English when he first came over, and I didn't really care as long as I had a cold beer in my hand. I was, I'm a pretty happy camper.
Well,
and if Inga Hammerstrom would be playing today, he would score 50 or 60 goals in this league. Because if you couldn't hook or slash him, you'd never get the puck away from him. He was an amazing talent. It's just that the league was so crude at that time that it was tough for him to perform. But he was a great hockey player.
Well, it's funny you said that because when Boria was on our podcast, he talked about that. And he said at the time, he came in the wrong era. And at the time, between him, Nielsen, Hedberg, Hammerstrom was the best player of them all. It was he was amazing. Like in practice, you couldn't get the puck away from him. And the goalies had no chance. He was so quick. He could shoot the puck quick like Matthews does now. But he wasn't as big as Matthews. He was maybe my side, but he was really fit. He was really fit, and he could really play. He was an amazing player. Yeah,
and a good guy, like a really good guy. When the Harold shit on him for not being tough enough, I don't remember Harold going into any corners.
Well, I want to get into that in a few minutes, but before that, I just want to you before you really kind of get settled in, you ended up in Rochester later. Yeah. Your roommate ended up being this guy named Don Cherry, but I think you both sort of ended up with each other by almost accident. Nobody, I think, wanted to room with you, and he kind of was complaining about everybody else or something along those lines.
Yeah. When I went there, I was rooming with Dick Gamble, and then Dick got a little tired of me never coming home on time for curfew or any of that stuff. I didn't even know how to spell it, let alone make it in time. So He wanted to get rid of me. Nobody else wanted to room with me, and Grapes was always, pissing and moaning about all the, these guys are getting that, and I'm not getting that, and that's why they call him Grapes. He was always the sour grapes, and but he liked me because when I got called up to the Leafs, I'd always bring him back blue line laces, which you couldn't get in the American League. So Bobby Haggart would always give me about 8 or 10 pair of 84-inch blue line laces, and I'd bring them to Grapes, and he loved me for that. So we ended up, rooming together.
I thought you were going
to. It was fantastic.
I thought you were going to say you brought him a case of Blue Light.
No. He didn't like Blue Light. Grapes only drank Bud.
Drink Bud. But he was a bit of a lightweight, though, wasn't he? He was not in your league at that time.
No. Yeah, Grapes would go. He'd have 5 or 6 beers every day, and that'd be it. But he'd hang around with me for a while. But he'd have to get rid of me after. No, I don't think anybody wanted to hang around with me after a while. But that was okay. It wasn't my fault. It's not like I like drinking. The drinking got me.
Yeah.
So it wasn't my choice. It's anybody that has alcoholism, the alcoholism has them.
Yeah.
So, and there's things you can do that you can relieve it, but you can never get rid of it. I'm going to die an alcoholic. But, there's so many character traits where, most of us are all the same. And, we're full of fear and self-delusion, self-seeking, self-pity, all this stuff. And that it's not a real good headspace for a guy that's trying to make a living as a professional hockey player.
Well, professional at anything.
Yeah. Well, especially as a hockey player.
So speaking of which, you come in 68, 69 for good. Things are starting to unravel a little bit with the Maple Leafs. Punch was in his last year as a bench boss. Now, you being new to the group, I would have to sense that, two questions here. Number one, could you sort of sense that he was losing a little bit of it from the team? They're getting older. It was starting to wear a little thin. His act may have been wearing thin with the players. He was a good coach, everybody said. But as you pointed out earlier, he picked on everybody, and his method of approach was different than most other people. But could you sense that he would give you a hard time, I would say?
More just ignoring me, right?
Young guys get you fired. New guys, he can't wait. See, my point was going to be, Jimmy, is that, a guy like him, rookies can get you fired, whereas a guy like Johnny McKenny would come in and has time to watch you grow into the job. Would that be a fair statement?
Yeah, but the team was a rebuilding team when I got there in '69. Before that, it was all old veterans, and all the guys got old at the same time, and they didn't have enough young talent coming up to filter into the system to make them a contender anymore. So we went into a rebuild. The first year that I played, we didn't make the playoffs. Then for the next 10 years that I was there, we always made the playoffs, and we always got maybe into the second or third round. And we could have got a little bit further, just with luck. But we had pretty good teams through the 70s. We had real good teams, and we would have had. I'm not blaming the goalies, but Bernie Perrant would have stuck around. We probably would have won 3 or 4 Stanley Cups. We lost Davey Keon, we lost Paul Henderson, we lost Jimmy Harrison, Ricky Lee, who was probably one of our better or our best defensemen. So we had some really good guys jump over the WHA, and the Leafs got nothing back for them. So that it was unfortunate.
Well, your team then. So let's talk about that. So Johnny McKenny comes in, new coach. The new era starts with guys we've touched on already. Hammerstrand and Salmon comes in. So first off, right away you've touched on how good those guys were. But when they initially came to the team, was the team's reaction to these guys? I remember around that time, that's when McDonald was coming in, and Turnbull and Neely. And so there's a whole transition of players coming in, as you touched on. But the new Swedes coming in, it was a new era of player coming. How was the players' reaction on your team?
Yeah, I think by that time, Red Kelly was the coach.
Red Kelly came in, yeah.
Yeah, I know. We were wondering what these guys were going to be like. Like we had like one practice with them before training camp started. Then camp started, we started playing the games, and boy, these guys looked pretty good. And they just kept getting better and better and better. And there wasn't an awful lot of judgment of them. They were so good. Borja was so good, and Inga was so good, and they were really nice guys. And Inga could speak English. Borja couldn't so much, but he liked hanging out with everybody. So he's like a beautiful guy. So it was all good. There weren't any negatives at all with those guys coming to the team, and we're helping them, as best we can. And then you realize maybe he's taking your job, but it only means that you're going to another place that's better. When I got sent to Dallas when I was 32, maybe 32 or 33 years old. It was way better for me to be down in Dallas than to be sitting on the bench for the Leafs or being a healthy scratch. It was way better. So, and then when I got traded to Minnesota, it was a way better place to be than Dallas. And then they sent me to Oklahoma City, and I met a whole bunch of really good guys down in Oklahoma City. And then I went over to Europe and played there for a couple of years. So every place you go, you meet the same guy. The same guys are on every team. Mm-hmm. They're all from the same sort of background, and there weren't too many guys in the NHL that were from Rosedale and Forest Hill. They were all from Hamilton, Kirkland Lake, Rouen, Miranda, Ottawa East, and and you got a big pocket full of cash, and things couldn't be better. It was fantastic. You thought it'd never end. It did. It did end for us, but it was.
Well, I want to go through the league when those guys first came in, and particularly going through the Philadelphia years, because those are really trying times for not only the NHL but the Maple Leafs. How crazy was it playing in Philly in those days? I mean, there is a story that you actually went to John D'Amico one time and asked him to look after you, like going against these assassins that they were throwing out on the ice, you guys. But more along the lines I was looking at was how the Swedes were getting treated and how were they getting pounded as much as it appeared they were?
I don't think so. I never heard Borja complain. I know there was one fight there that
he fought Schultz his first game in Philadelphia.
Oh, did he?
He didn't know who he was though.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I do. Yeah. But I think Larry Goodenough or something got it. There were 2 or 3 guys got into a fight with them. I was on the ice at the same time, and I think I had Bob Kelly, and we were buddies. I met him in the summertime, so I didn't have to worry about getting beat up by him. But I wish I could have done more. But I mean, I wasn't that tough a guy. Well, we had a pretty tough team. We had a lot of guys that could fight. A guy like Darryl Sittler was probably the toughest guy or second toughest guy on the team. Kurt Walker, Dave Dunn when he came. Lanny McDonald could fight. So, and Tiger fought every game. Tiger was ready to fight every shift of every game that he played for 15 years. And there aren't very few guys in the NHL that can claim that they did that. Guys like Probert and that they lasted about 5, 6, 7 years, but not too many went 15 years to where they were ready to go every shift of every game. I really admired Tiger for that. He was a pretty good hockey player on top of that. He was a useful player. He could score 20 goals a year.
Well, they said about him is the problem with Tiger was nobody wanted to fight him at the end, because if you fought him once, he'd want to fight you every shift you played. Never mind just once and go away to the bench and have a beer after. He'd fight you every shift.
Yeah.
Problem with him.
Or we're going to go again as soon as we get out of the box. Yeah. But that's like the story of Billy Goldthorpe. who played in Minnesota with Mike Walton. Some guy gave Shaky an elbow and broke his nose, and so he got into a fight. High stick the guy, and then Goldie came off the bench and got into a big beef, and they threw them both into the penalty box. And a couple of guys from Birmingham, they were in the box over there, and then Shake had a 5-2, and Goldie only had a 2-minute penalty. Goldie goes out after 2 minutes. His time's up. He goes out onto the ice. He doesn't have his stick or his gloves. Shake's yelling at him, Goldie, here's your stick and glove. He says, don't worry, I'll be right back. He was just going out there to punch somebody out. Then he was coming right back in the box. But the WHA, I was glad I didn't go to that week.
Well, almost that one night in Toronto, the Philadelphia playoff series, the famous series. Once again, they go after Salming, and Bridgman suckers him and attacks him. And you're on the ice for that. And you actually were holding two guys, and they can just scrum here. We'll see at the end. What was the mood in the dressing room like after he got pounded like that?
Well, the guys would be pissed off, and the guys played harder. I don't think our team quit. No. After that happened. I don't know what was the final score of that game. Did they end up winning? Or?
Well, what I wanted to tell you was that game you won. That next game is the game that Salming scores the goal. I think is probably one of the most emotional goals ever scored at the Gardens. It was one of the biggest roars you ever heard. I think everybody in Leaf fan everywhere jumping up and down. He said him and Sittler practice that play in practice all the time, and he talked about that as one of the most memorable goals he ever scored. You remember that one? I'm sure you were there.
I have no idea.
There it is right here. Now watch this.
No idea.
And there he is right there. And you don't remember that one? Well, I know you guys were all a part of that.
I can't see. I don't have the picture.
Oh, you can't see it? Oh.
No.
Oh, what's the producer doing? Look it up. The producer.
Take me there. Paint the picture for me, Mike.
We're going to have to find him. Well, he was a star, okay, of the game.
You're going to have to send that to me. Yeah.
Well, we will send that to you. Paul will send it to you after.
Oh, yeah? Okay, fabulous.
Okay, so anyway, that series, I mean, all I was going to say was after that, I think any doubters that Salming had courage and was an elite level player were put to rest after that Philadelphia series. And he gave that sort of his star rose after that, I would suggest.
Yeah, I've had even Philly guys say how tough he was, like Bobby Clark and Bob Daly and all kinds of guys say they couldn't believe what a hockey player Borja was. He's like when they played, Borja was the best player on the ice. He was the best. Him and Bernie Perrant were probably the two best players on the ice all the time. He was incredible, and he could have played. He could have been a professional tennis player. He could have been a Formula One driver. He could have done anything that he wanted to do athletically. He was incredible. But he played when he went into the Army. He played handball. He never played handball before in his life. This European handball where they run around and they throw the ball into. Yeah. After about 3 or 4 weeks of playing that, the Swedish national team wanted him to get out of the Army and come and play for the national team in handball. So that's how good he was, and it was a game he'd never played before. And in 3 weeks, he was like at a world-class level.
Lights out.
He could play anything. That he could play golf if he went. He hated golf, though. It went too slow for him. But he was good. He could have been a pro golfer if he wanted to. Now,
in your early days, wasn't John Ferguson a bit of it? Didn't he have a kerfuffle with you one night where he chased you around the ice and I maybe a mistaken identity, went after the wrong guy and you were...
Oh, well, yeah. Well, what happened was Billy McMillan was playing on our team at that time. And I'm playing defense with Glennie. We're standing up at the blue line and Ferguson's coming just over the blue line. He gets the puck and Billy McMillan came back early and he soon as Fergie got the puck, Billy hit him with a shoulder right in the middle of the chest and that almost knocked him cold. The puck went loose and went into the corner. I go back to pick up the puck, and then I turn around and come out with the puck, and I'm just making a pass, and Fergie's head comes up, and I'm the first guy he sees is me, right? So he's after my ass because he thinks I was the one that hit him, right? And so I'm running around for like a period. Every time I'm out there, Fergie comes out and he's chasing me. And finally I said, for crying out loud, I said, get the right guy, number 11. It was McMillan. It wasn't me that hit you. So, yeah, poor Billy took a bit of a beating there, but yeah, it was okay. So I lived through it.
So we've already touched on this a little bit with the WHA. The WHA was getting off the ground. You had the old hardliner in Harold, who stubbornly dug his heels in and watched his team get dismantled. I mean, the players obviously what were you guys talking about at the time? I mean, nobody's going to deny anybody else to try to do better for themselves and their family. But you got offered a ticket by Chicago, I believe, and Johnny Bassett. Tell us that story.
Oh, there was, yeah. Well, the one in Chicago, they offered the Cougars. A guy came and met me at a restaurant out by the airport and offered me $150,000 for 5 years. I said, "Oh, Christ, I don't know." I'd never heard about any like money like that before, and like I was shocked, And then I decided, I bet I'm going to stay. I'm going to stay in Toronto, and then Johnny Bassett got my rights from Chicago, and he had me and Ronnie Ellis and Paul Henderson over to his house one night up on Post Road. And of course, I wanted to create a really good impression. So I didn't start drinking till about noon. And by the time I got there, I was pretty well gunned up. And Gordy Lightfoot was there with his girlfriend. He's an amazing guy. And we're sitting around, and of course, we're having a few more beers. And then we have dinner. And then after dinner, Johnny says to me and Henny and Ronnie Ellis that he'd want to see us in his study. And so we go into the study, and he says, "Well, I guess I have you guys here tonight." He says, I want you all to come over and play for the Toros." And the guys are saying, "Well, we don't know." I said, "What kind of money are you offering?" And he was the same as Chicago, $150 a year for 5 years. And Al and Ronnie are saying, "Well, we're going to have to check with our agent, who was Al Eagleson." I said, "Well, never mind him." I said, "I'll sign it right now if you got it." I said, I'm in. But I didn't realize he could only afford to sign one of us, and Henny just had the big year with at
72,
and he would have been and Henny was a great hockey player. Like he should be in the Hall of Fame, but I do whoever's selecting it out of it. But Henny ended up signing there. But in the meantime, Ronnie and I signed with the Leafs for 5 years for 120, which was fantastic. So it turned out good for all of us.
So now your newfound fame, did that result in any endorsement contracts for you as a result of this? Because now all of a sudden you're in the 6-figure bracket making money. And did you got a stick contract, I believe, and you got a
I think so, yeah, with Louisville Slugger.
Yeah,
Louisville Slugger gave me $500 to use their sticks one year, and the next year they paid me $1,500 not to use them. So I switched over to Coho. I didn't care. Yeah, the Cohos were good. I didn't get any money either. But yeah, Coho was. I was one of the first guys to use Cohos in the NHL, and when I went over to play in Switzerland, I couldn't get my pattern there. They wouldn't send me the sticks from Sweden, which was about a 40-minute flight.
Yeah.
No, I was a little steamed about that, but
And you had on your right-handed sticks too, didn't you? You had to bend sticks, didn't you?
I had left-handed sticks. I had these left-handed Titan sticks, and I had to put them in the oven and bend them. Yeah, bend them to make them into rights.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was crazy. We couldn't get any equipment over there. We're having trouble. And then when you broke your blade on your skates, I had those tuck blades, and every time the puck would hit, we played outdoors all the time over there, so it was cold. Yeah. And so the plastic was brittle and the skate blades, and so every time you'd take a shot there, they'd crack. So you'd have to go and get your blades changed every time. I had to go back to Nylites because they lasted way better.
Now, I was going to say to you that Red Kelly comes in to coach the Leafs, and that's there in the Somminger and all that stuff, and different personality, the pyramid power, all those type of things. Did you fall under his guidance? Did he buy into your act? I mean, I think didn't one time your daughter and you met him at somewhere, and your daughter said, "My mom hates you," and you made some comment that
my son,
my wife and I don't always agree.
Yeah. My wife thought he was crazy, so my son was there at practice one day, and Red was working out on the weight machine, and my son had about 15 pieces of gum in his mouth, and he looks at him and he said, "Are you Red?" And Red said, "Yeah." And he said, "You know what my mother thinks about you? She thinks you're crazy." And and Red was so embarrassed and crazy that the trainers came roaring out on the ice to tell me that that my wife thought that Red was nuts. And Red was the nicest person in the history of the game, and an amazing hockey player. He was the only guy that made the NHL Hall of Fame as a centerman and as a defenseman. He was incredible, and a lot of guys, I think, played forward, then moved back to defense, but very few would move from defense to center. Yeah, you can play on the wing. I played on the wing for years, and it was it's much simpler job than playing center. Center was really difficult, and Red just took to it like nothing.
Now, how'd you get along with him? How'd you get along with Red?
Oh, Red was great. Yeah, he was fantastic. Always, never a problem.
Now, I was going to ask you
that I know of. Yeah.
Now, was that him the night there was a puck that went deflected way up in the air between both benches and stayed in play, and you were on the ice and you yelled out "fair catch" or something? And was that under Red when you did that?
Yeah, that was. Yeah, we were playing against Oakland because Gary Smith kicked the puck up in the air. He used to kick it like a football punt, and he kicked it right to me, right? So I'm yelling for a fair catch, and all the guys on the Oakland bench were laughing. But but Red didn't say nothing.
Now, did they get your humor, the coaches, or did they get you? Like, because you were noted for making a lot of pretty funny comments.
Yeah. But I just try and loosen up a room, or it didn't really matter. And I don't know whether it was that.
Well, I'll give you an example.
Was that funny or not?
I'll give you an example. And you're against Philly in the dressing room one time playing in the Spectrum. Apparently, one of the coaches came in and all their heads were pointed down because guys were just terrified. And you said. They said, "What's everybody so down about?" So, well, how would you feel if you were ready to die in 15 minutes or something along those lines? And
guy could hear it. And then all the guys got pissed off, and we go out there, and then there's a fight after about two shifts. There's a bench clearing brawl. Like every time we played against Philadelphia, there'd be a bench clearing brawl in the first 5 minutes of the game. That was Freddie Shiro's strategy, and they had a bunch of tough guys, but after a while we had just as tough a team as they did.
Yeah,
I thought we did anyways.
You did. Well, Roger Nielsen, Captain Video comes in. Now, you're a seasoned veteran by the time he arrives. He comes in with the approach of the videos and all sort of, he was a little bit of an odd duck, but what was your attitude at that time with Roger coming? Was like, here we go again, or just go with the flow?
Well, the team was in transition. I wasn't playing an awful lot. They had a lot of younger guys that were better than I was on defense, and Borja was playing. He played the right side, and he's playing 40 minutes a game, so there wasn't an awful lot of time for all the rest of us. So, things were going to have to happen. So, Roger ended up having to send me. He had to send me to
Dallas.
Yeah, he called me in just before Christmas and said, "We're sending you down to Dallas." I said, "Well, if somebody gets hurt, I'll be coming back up." He said, "No, you're never coming back here." So I told him what he could do with it, and I called him back about 3 weeks later and apologized to him for being a little short to when that happened, and we became good friends later on. I always kidded him about the Larry Burrows for Randy Carlisle deal. I said, "Raj, could you run that deal by me again, just one more time?" I think Bunky played maybe 20 or 30 games for the Leafs, and Randy went on. He won two Norris trophies and maybe a Stanley Cup with
Pittsburgh.
With Pittsburgh, yeah, he was fantastic, but Raj didn't like him too much.
Well, no, so
for some reason or other. But Raj was one of the nicest guys you'll ever want to meet.
They all say
he had a hockey school in Port Hope, and a friend of mine, like I knew her from Dallas. She was his accountant, and I said, "Nancy, he's got to make a fortune there. He's packed all the time, and he's open 10 weeks of the summer." She says he never makes a cent. I said, "How can he not make a cent when he's packed all the time for 10 weeks? He said, "Well, if any kid needs a new pair of skates, Raj goes out and buys him a new pair of skates. Any kid needs a stick, Raj buys him a stick. Some kid can't afford to come to the hockey school, Raj lets him come for free. But I have a little brother who plays too, and he can't bring him along." So about 3/4 of the kids at the school never paid. and Raj could never say no to them. But he got all his instructors for free because he used all those old Peterborough Petes, Bob Gainey and Jimmy Jones, all those guys went and worked there. And so it was a really, really good hockey school. And then Mickey Redmond worked there for a while too.
Yeah.
It was great.
Well, Howie, I'd be remiss if we didn't mention the possible movie career you had, starting with Face Off. You couple of additions, but your part ended up going to a guy by the name of Art Hindle, who had a little more experience as an actor, but I think he snookered the movie people with his hockey ability that left the door open for you and one of your other buddies, Jimmy Dory, to educate him on how to skate.
Yeah, Art bullshitted them, told them he was played hockey. He was actually a pretty good football player, but he'd never had a pair of skates on in his life. And so we had to, I got some skates from Joe Scrow, and then we took him out to an outdoor rink and taught him how to tie the skates, and then took him out and pushed him around the rink. And I guess he bluffed them enough that he got the job anyways.
Yeah.
And I ended up being the on-ice guy. And it was a great experience for me. I made friends when they were shooting that movie that are still my friends today, including Art and another guy, late John DeRoche. I hung around with him for, 35, 40 years till he passed away 3 years ago. So I met a lot of amazing people when they were doing that movie. And we had a lot of fun doing it. It was great.
Now, he wasn't the only Hollywood celebrity that you seemed to help teach how to skate. There was one other guy, long-haired kind of looking guy with a one-hit wonder, who came to the Gardens one night. And I think maybe he gave you a little bit of a hint here. Can you see the picture?
Tiny Tim.
Now, as I'm told,
I didn't even know who he was. And Shaky grabs me. He says, as soon as Tiny Tim came out, Shaky grabs me and said, let's go we'll get on TV if we go and grab them. So we got our picture taken with Tiny Tim. We got a lot of good ink out of that. That was all Shaky's idea, Mike Walton's.
Well,
yeah, it was great.
As the story, now there is a sort of an old wives' tale that goes out that it suggests that you were the only two brave enough guys to go near him because old Tiny had forgot his high karate that day and wasn't.
Well, yeah, he did have some grooming problems, but I mean, we probably weren't smelling that good ourselves, so it didn't really matter. You know? And he seemed like a nice enough guy, but we didn't socialize with him, or he didn't invite us out to dinner after the game or any of that kind of stuff. So, well, I never really did get to know him.
Yeah. Well, now going back to the movie, I just wanted to talk. Were there any memorable moments while you were filming? Speaking of Dave Hansen, he told us that during Slapshot, when they were shooting it, they were sitting around so much doing nothing that it was cutting into their beer time and their beer drinking. So what they thought was they started bringing coolers full of beer onto the set and drinking. And before the end, all of a sudden, everybody was engaging, including Paul Newman. And then sometimes shoots would have to be taken the next day because the guys were going. Anything like that crazy happening to you guys on the set?
No, we usually drank away from it. You know, I was hanging around with Turk for about 3 or 4 days. It almost killed both of us. But, oh God, yeah, I don't have an awful lot of recall on when people ask me about that movie. I don't remember any of it. I was in a blackout for the week that they did all the shooting in Toronto.
Well, all I think you have to say is I hung around with Derek Sanderson for 3 days, and I think that ends the story right there.
Yeah. The Turk was great. He was a very entertaining guy, and he was a hell of a hockey player.
Sure was.
He never got the recognition really that he deserved, because he didn't get on the ice much, because Phil Esposito played about 45 minutes of the game, and the other 3 centers fight for the other 15 minutes of ice time. So all Turk ever got to do was kill penalties and get on the odd power play. But he was a player. He was a good player.
Now your other
and a great guy.
Now, your other running mate through that period was a guy by the name of Jim Dory that everybody's well aware of. And
the Flipper, yeah.
The Flipper. And the two of you almost, this is a little bit of an off-the-cuff story, but you guys almost started a moving company as a joke. And I think management the media had some fun with it because you were hanging around with some of those guys, apparently.
Yeah, some guys had a moving company, and we were sitting drinking one day at I think at the Carriage House. And we were bullshitting that we wanted to get into business and maybe diversify. We'd just play hockey in the wintertime and then get into the moving business in the summer. And then some of the guys in the newspapers, I think Frank Orr and Red Burnett and those guys got a hold of it. They started jacking us around, making us look like assholes. And we could do that all by ourselves, so it was okay. We really didn't take it too seriously. And Jimmy Dory ended up being a very, very successful businessman with Allstate. I think he was one of their top reps for 25 or 30 years down in Kingston. Yeah. So he did really well.
Yeah. Well, so in spite of the moving company, and that was enough, you guys being up and down so much in the minors to the Maple Leafs and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we might have been whining about that.
Yeah, so that was kind of a little play on that. Now, who were some of the other characters you came across over the years? Now, one of your buddies is Gary Smith. You referred to him as the Axe before. Where does that name come from?
Oh, the Axe. Well, actually, what happened was there was this guy named Wilbur Mao who used to hang around with the Marlies all the time. We're St. Mike's, and St. Mike's were practicing at Varsity Arena one day, and Smith was coming out, and Wilbur had offended somebody, and the guy was going after him with what looked like an axe. And Smitty went over and tackled the guy and let Wilbur get away. And from that point on, Gary was known as the Axe. I think Mike Corbett, Corby Cat, was the guy that gave him the nickname. But, that's, a lot of guys call Smitty Suitcase, but that was the other Smitty. That was Al Smith. Yeah. Yeah, and he was another character. He was fantastic.
Now, one of the other guys I hung around with too a little bit was Ian Turnbull. Now, you've got a couple stories on him, like the bull. There's people always have stories on him.
Yeah, there were, the one I like the best is about he could really shoot the puck.
Yeah,
and I think he'd scored 3 goals one night at the Gardens, and he was going over to his bar Grapes across the street, and Trevor Johansson was with him. He said, "Oh, Trevor says to him, geez, that's really something, scoring 3 goals." And Hawk says, that's nothing. And Trevor looks at him, and then Hawk says, 5 something. And Trevor said, "What defenseman ever scored 5 goals?" He said, "Me." Yeah. We're talking about me here. Yeah. But he was great. It didn't matter how much Red or Roger would get upset with him. He wouldn't care. He just, what do you want to do? You don't like it? Trade me. I could
well, didn't he make a comment about the franchise one night about the?
Yeah, he was on. Yeah, because him and Borja were on for 4 goals against it in one period, and Borja went ballistic. Right, he couldn't believe that happened to him, and Hawk's sitting over in the corner like nothing's going on. Right? Then. Like Roger was such a big fan of Borges that he comes in to give us all shit that we're not working hard enough and leave these guys hanging them out to dry and all that shit. And then he starts on Turnbull, because Turnbull made about 3 giveaways on the goals. And Hawk said, come on, cut me a little slack here, Rog. He said, talk to the franchise over there. And he's pointing to Mike Palmateer. He said, if the franchise makes 3 more stops, we're not even having this conversation. So get off my case, And then he walks into the washroom, and everybody in the dressing room was roaring laughing, because in those days like today they criticize the goalies for not controlling the rebounds and not making the second save and doing. In those days, you never dumped on your goalies. It was his job to make that first stop, and then it was your job to clear the puck away from the front of the net. And it's much different now because the game is different, and the goalies are much more involved. But in those days, and Palmy was great too. Palmy was a great goaltender, and he was one of Hawk's best buddies.
Now, what did management think about the fact that I guess a wedge and maybe a putter from the rink? You've got Grapes, the bar, and Brian Glennie's Wheels is about a half a foot putt away from there. That must have been a good hangout for you. There must have been a lot of strategic planning going on in those days with you guys.
Yeah, both of them were good spots. My buddy Dennis Duperry went into the washroom one night, and he goes into the can, and then he falls asleep, and they lock him in there. He couldn't get out. He woke up at about 6 o'clock in the morning again. He's locked inside the bar. He couldn't get out till they opened up at 11 o'clock. God. Yeah, so he wasn't in very good shape by the time they came and opened the doors up, because the fridges were open, so he wasn't in any panic or anything. He was just sitting there pretty casual when the guy came to open it up. It wasn't, Brian didn't come and open the plate. He had another guy, a buddy of his, I think a guy named Brian Cedar. I think he came in and found Duper in there. He started laughing.
Well, going along those lines of getting locked in a room by accident, let's go to you guys are close knit. You're hanging around with each other a lot. Pranks had to come up occasionally. Who was the prankster, and was there a certain guy that wasn't always a victim that was getting caught by everybody all the time or pranked on?
Yeah, Lanny McDonald was probably the worst one. he'd do all kinds of shit. He'd put Vaseline in your shoes, and once he put a mouse in Inga Hammerstrom's glove. Ingy almost freaked out. He put his hand into the glove and pulled his finger out, and there was a mouse stuck to his finger. And Inga was immaculate, right? He almost threw up. And, we were all roaring, laughing, and that shit. But it was a pretty bad. And Lanny felt bad about it because Inga took it so bad. But sometimes the pranks backfire on you, but it didn't really matter. Sometimes one time I used one of Lanny's tricks when I played over in Switzerland. I was late for practice one day, and a guy cut my laces, so then I couldn't get my skates out and get onto the ice in time. So I ended up getting fined for being late for practice. So I found out who it was, and so I had some of that white hot liniment.
Yeah.
And I put just a little dab of it on his inner jock before he went out for practice. And then once you start sweating, this stuff, this analgesic bomb starts working. And he was almost crying by the time he was finished, because he ran off the ice. He was on fire. And then he went into the shower, and a hot shower just makes it worse, right? So that was great. I got him back.
Now,
yeah.
Go ahead. If you got another one.
No, it's okay.
I was going to say to you that now we're moving on to time here, and I don't want to keep you all night. But Harold Ballard, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that you had a pretty good relationship with him. He liked you.
No, well, when I got sent down, when Roger sent me down, I said, well, wouldn't Harold want me back? He said, no, he doesn't like you either. So that was okay. But when I ended up working in the media at City TV, I had to do a thing with Harold. They wanted me to do an obit for him. And so this was about 5 or 6 years before he died. And I went in, and he talked for like an hour and a half about different things, and he gave me a lot of his time. And then later on, when I used to ride my bike around High Park, and Henry used to take him and TC Puck, his great big Bouvier, out to High Park for exercise, and I'd be riding around, and Harold would be sitting on a bench right by the road there, and I go by and I tell, hey, you old prick, and then I just keep going, and they said, you're still screwing up that team, and then I keep going around. Then he sees me the next time, and he stands up and he said, who the hell are you? And I turn around and, it's you. Sit down, for Christ's sakes. And we sat down and shut the shit there for about an hour and a half. But he was an amazing guy. Harold, when you were on top, he'd shit on you, but if you were ever in trouble, he'd help you out. I went and asked him to Brian Spencer called me, and he needed some money for a lawyer, and I didn't have any money at the time, so he asked me to go and ask Harold for it. And so I told him Lake Spinner was in a bit of a jackpot down there, and he needed a lawyer, and he didn't have any money. And Harold said, well, just let me know how much he needs, and give me where you want it sent, and it'll be taken care of. And Jerry Hart, another guy that Spinner had played with in the island, ended up paying for all the lawyer's fees. But Harold stepped right up to the plate. It wasn't a problem with him.
Fantastic.
And he'd help anybody.
Now you touched on your the broadcast, and let's get a couple of minutes. Like, how did that get started? And just you put a pretty good career in on that part of it.
Yeah, thank God I was a terrible salesman. I got fired from a couple of jobs, and but one of my clients was Q107 Radio. Yeah, and Gary Slate owned the place, and I went and asked him if I could come and work there, and he said, well, we use you in sales and you can do the morning sportscasts. So I got to work on the morning zoo with Gene Velitis and Scruff Connors. Yeah. Amazing bunch of guys. Bob Makowitz was there. God, there was a lot of talented people that were working at Q107 at that time. And I worked there for maybe 3 years, and then the job came open at City, where Jim Taddy moved over to Global. So Peter Gross needed another guy to do sports, and I would run bets to the track for Pete. So he was lobbying hard for me to get that job. And Moses, I used to run with all the time in High Park, and so I sort of suck holing around him and trying to get the job. And he gave me a chance, and ended up turning out okay. I never got into the pension plan because I always figured I was going to get fired, and then 25 years later, I'm still there, but it was great. I love working there. I have friends today that I work with there that I see it. It's like I've never been away. There's like another hockey team that I play for. All the cameramen that I work with, and the directors and the producers, and everybody. I have a lot of good friends from City TV, and I was even lucky that Catherine Humphreys came along at the right time, because she was better than Gallagher and I put together the first night she went on. So the writing was on the wall. I told Gallagher, just keep your mouth shut and do whatever she wants, and maybe they'll keep us around for a while. John got a little steamed, and after 2 years they let him go, and then I hung on for like about another 5-6 years. So it was fantastic. And then they fired me, and when Rogers took over, they gassed me, and I ended up getting a buyout. It was the best deal, best thing that ever happened to me. I'm a huge fan of Rogers TV. Yeah, it was great.
Now, speaking of your teams and some of your teammates, I'd once again be remiss, I've used this already, if we didn't talk about the 64 Marley reunion. That must have been pretty special for you, and just speak to your relationship and the man himself, Jim Gregory.
Oh, Jim, yeah. He was like my dad. When I came to Toronto, he was the one that looked after me all the time. And when I went to his funeral, everybody's saying all these really nice things about him, and what a great guy and all that shit. And his son David was in the line, and I went in and I shook hands with Dave, and I said, "Did you hear all this horse shit today?" I said, "You and I know a side to him that nobody else knows." He said, "Yeah, you're not kidding." He used to get me up in the office and he'd be reaming me out. And he was tough on Dave too. But Dave's a great guy. His son David is an amazing person. He's got an amazing family. And Jim was, he was saved my life. He was a great guy. Amazing person. I was lucky to have a lot of really, really good people in my life, and it's still happening today. I've got tons of them. It's great to have a lot of good friends. I have more fun with people than I do. A lot of people like being alone all the time. I like being with other people and having a few laughs.
Now, maybe speak to your what you do away from this, when you try to help other people with addiction. You do some counseling.
Yeah, I've worked at a couple of treatment centers at CCFA out in Port Hope. I was there 5 or 6 years, and then I was at ART up in Rexdale for a couple of years, and then COVID hit, and I haven't been doing much. But as soon as I get my shots, so I'm going to go back, and I like working there. There's a lot of sick people out there, and if you can be of help. And I can be of help because of my past. If I didn't have my past, I couldn't be of help to anybody. But these guys can't go to their parents, and they can't go to their aunts and uncles, or they can't go to their doctors or their lawyers for help, because they can't help them.
They don't understand.
The only person that can help them some idiot like me. I know how to get better.
But you must get something from them too to help you, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, I got to get way more out of it than they do, but they don't know that, so that's fine.
Yeah,
I have the no care. They can do what they want. I have no attitude of holier than thou. I'm a loser when it comes to drugs and alcohol. I'm a total loser, and so the way I work with them is, there's no fees to pay. It's all free. There's no axes to grind, no people to please, no lectures to be endured. It's just, let's have some fun here, and you can get better. You can get better in a second. Soon as you surrender, you'll get better. But if you keep fighting it, this disease will kill you. It kills more people every year than all the cancers put together. And you don't hear much about it. People get cancer, everybody feels really bad for them. You get this disease, everybody hates you. And a lot of, we deserve it. But I mean, it's not like I wanted to do it, and I never chose to be a drug addict and an alcoholic. And I defy anybody to tell me on what day you decided to become an alcoholic or a drug addict. Nobody wants to be one, but in recovery, I've made a lot of good friends there, like really, really good friends. And you make friends fast, and I've had friends 30 years in that, in the fellowship that I'm in. It's fantastic.
Fantastic.
I look forward to every day. Every day is good.
Yep, that's great, Jimmy. That's great. That's great to hear. And just on a closing note here, I guess while we're talking about jobs. I have to look back when you were playing junior hockey. If you didn't go to school, wasn't it a rule playing for the Marlies? You used to have to work at the gardens?
Yeah. I used to have to cut all the stuff out of the newspapers. That was my job. Anything that mentioned the Leafs or the Marlies or anything to do with hockey, and I had to cut it out and put it into a scrapbook. I went into the office one day, and there must have been 300 newspapers stacked up there that I hadn't gone through yet. And that's where I saw the other side of Jim Gregory. He came in there. So he fired me from that job. But most of the other guys they were moppers and all that kind of stuff. That was tough work.
Yeah. Now, how long did you do that? Well, how long did you last doing that job?
The mopping and that, about a day. But I loved all the guys back in the workroom. I used to go back there and have a few beers with them all the time. I knew that if I was getting chased by the cops or chased by the bikers, if I got to the gardens, there was no way that they would get me. The boys in the back room would never give me up. It was fantastic. It was like a family. The whole building was like a family. It was great.
Yeah, anybody who works there always talks about that. I know we talked to the Wayne Gillespie's and Celeste of the world. They tell us they go on about that and about how tight a group it is. And I was fortunate to host a night one with the Maple Leaf Gardens staff, and a lot of them came over, and you could just see the genuine love they all had for each other and for the place. So it was a very special building, a very special place to work, and it's memories I think they're going to carry for the rest of their lives. So on that note,
I still go there. I go there twice a week to get groceries.
Well, I told everybody, do you go see
beautiful.
Go drop a tuna can at center ice.
Yeah, and nobody boos me when I go in there. I love it.
No, they're saying Lou.
Yeah,
it's Lou, not boo.
Oh, there was a B on there. Yeah, it's okay.
No, but Jimmy, just want to thank you so much. It was just a real treat speaking to you again. Always said very entertaining, great stories. Thanks for joining us today. And listen, hope to see you soon when all this pandemic and everything lifts.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Mike, and have a good week down there in Florida, will you?
I will.
It's going to be 10 degrees here tomorrow. It's beautiful. Yeah.
Well, I don't know what it is tomorrow, but hopefully it'll be a little bit better. And here's Paul's going to jump on for a second and say something. Laura?
Thanks, Howie. You were fantastic.
I was adequate. That's all I am.
No, you were.
No, you don't want to be too good because they might ask you back.
Yeah. I'll send you the video.
I've
Okay?
never had that problem. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's
Yeah,
all
check it
good.
out. Great.
It's great. And I want to say hello to everybody in the alumni. I love being a part of that family. You know, all the guys out there are all great. You know,
Fantastic.
every person that I ever played with or watched play were all really, really good people. Amazing people.
Fantastic.
I thank all of you.
Thanks for joining us.
No, it was awesome. You were great.
Thanks for having me.
If anyone
Thank
wants
you.
to join our
Okay.
after party, if you haven't got an invitation, you can email us at talkytimemachine@gmail.com and we will send you a link and you can join us on our after show on the Zoom. If you like this program, could you please press like and subscribe? And if you click the little bell, it'll notify you when we go live. So thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Laura.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.